Baseball winter meetings cranking up, and some experts are wondering why the Cubs aren't going after Juan Soto. Why aren't they bidding on baseball's best free agent? What would that look like if the Cubs were able to go out and buy the best player that's available in the game, one of baseball's five best, 26 years old, star player, and bring him to Wrigley? We're going to talk about that. Ken Rosenthal on Bruce Levine's show, making some comments right here on the Cubs baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's go. What do you say, guys? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. Mick Gillispie here. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right, the topic of today's show is basically Ken Rosenthal calling out the Ricketts and Tom Ricketts, the chairman of the Cubs, on Bruce Levine's radio show in Chicago. And I thought it was interesting because I felt like it was worth getting into today. It isn't like Ken wrote a big column and was, hammering the Cubs, but they asked him about, why the Cubs weren't in on Juan Soto. And he talked about that, and basically, hey, the Cubs and the Red Sox aren't spending money like they used to, basically like, hey, they should be doing that. Kind of got into the reasons why he, having Soto would be such a big deal. I think we all know that, man. I mean, the guy's a superstar. He was so good with the Yankees, but over $600 million for one player. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, and I look at it and I go, it's not only that, it's also the fact that the position he plays. And a lot of you guys are going to go, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, you just throw him in there. The problem that the Cubs have are some of these contracts that they're in. And if you're going to pay $600 million plus for a player, if you're the owner of that team, and that's a lot of money coming out of your pocket, you want to see where things were built for this guy to come to town. So I don't necessarily believe, like Ken's saying, that this is all about Tom Ricketts' wallet as much as it is the principle of throwing good money at a bad situation. Now, let me get into why. Would I love to see Juan Soto with the Cubs? Well, hell yeah, I would. No doubt about it. Would love it. It'd be great. He's a great player. And it's fun when you see the Cubs, and they've done this a few times over the years, go out and try to get the best players in baseball to come play with them. Going back to when Andre Dawson came, and from that point on, when they were gone out and they got Soriano, that was exciting. When they got Lester, that was a really big deal. Even when they got Zobrist, maybe he wasn't the best player, but he was the best fit for that team. And it's always exciting, when they would go out and sign some of these big free agent closers and get in the mix for guys. And even last year when they were trying to get Ohtani, or at least they were trying, right? But you're not hearing that right now. And I talk about this continuously because I think you have to consider it when you talk about the ability of a team to spend money. You cannot let your front office spend money when you don't feel comfortable with the way that they've spent it in the past. And what I'm saying is that the biggest money free agents that you've spent money on, Cody Bellinger, you feel like that contract's so bad, you're trying to get rid of him right now. You're trying to trade him. And I didn't think that was a terrible contract just because the Cubs aren't stuck with him like they are Dansby Swanson, who reportedly had surgery this offseason. I hope he comes back healthy because the Cubs are going to have him play shortstop for a long time. And last year was just so below that contract that he got offensively that it would, if it was my money, I would be really hesitant to go out there and let this front office go sign me somebody else. I'm sorry. I would feel like that. Like, especially like going back to Jason Hayward. I mean, that wasn't necessarily Jed, but it was his predecessor, Theo, and he was his right-hand man. And then you're just sitting there strapped. I mean, how many years were we watching this guy in right field that just couldn't hit the ball out of the infield? It was like a weak pop up the second, ground out, bad at bats. Such a bad contract, such bad performance for the money that he got paid. And it's kind of like repeating itself with Swanson at shortstop. And now you want to go out and spend $600 million. Now, I think Soto would live up to it. But when you look at the way that the Cubs are constructed, you got a log jam already with outfielders. So you're going to put him in there, and then what? So you're going to put him in right field. Then what are you going to do with Owen Casey? Then what are you going to do with Kevin Alcantara? Then what are you going to do with Alexander Canario? What are you going to do with Seiya Suzuki, who's got a no-trade clause? Ian Happ, no-trade clause. You got Cody Bellinger right now, this minute. You got Pete Crow Armstrong. It's a lot of outfielders, and that's where Soto plays. He plays in the outfield. So what's the next move, right? It's not like you have a team and it's like, okay, we can move this guy, we can move this guy, we can move this guy. They're trying to move a guy with a no-trade clause in Suzuki, and he could veto any deal that he makes. To me, Ian Happ's the guy that you would want to get rid of. And it's not, this isn't a shot at Happ, but I think that for the money, the value, for that money that you're paying him, you could plug in one of those young outfielders and really, even if you platooned a couple of guys out there because he's a switch hitter, I think that you could get similar or better production, and you could spend a lot less money. Right? So he's not going anywhere. You're not hearing his name at all anyway. And then, Seiya Suzuki, they're saying you got him popping up, but he's got a no-trade clause. Bellinger could be traded, but what value are you going to get back? Because it doesn't seem like teams are real excited about paying him $27.5 million when a lot of the market tells you that that's not what he's worth. So you may get somebody to pick up the money, but you might not get players back. Or it could be one of those deals where you trade them, you pick up some of the money and get better players back in return. And then you have all these needs, right? Pitching, both starting and the bullpen, although I guess the starting's closest to being complete. The bullpen, to me, still needs a lot of work. You don't have middle of the bat lineups. You're about to trade one of those guys. And so my point is this, is that it's easy to go, hey, this is the owner's fault. But when you look at the list of teams that spend, there's a lot of teams that are doing way better than the Cubs that spend a lot less money. And if you go out and you hire somebody else next year to run your team, and you're strapping them with financial problems because you let the guy before go out and spend a bunch of money on players, and you got a log jam of outfielders, but you don't have enough pitching, that's an issue. So what I'm hoping is that Jed goes out, kills it this year, ends up winning the World Series. We're all happy. And, and everybody's satisfied with the direction of the organization. But chances are baseball is competitive. Cubs haven't even made a run where you feel like they have a chance since 2017. They barely make the playoffs. They haven't done that in a while. And they're in a division with teams that you look at that spend a lot less money than them, but are a lot more successful than they are. So that's kind of why I'm going to take up for Tom Ricketts for a little bit. It's not like the Cubs are like Cleveland and they're not spending, but to me, it's hard to go in and so you just spent, all that money on Dansby Swanson. The guy's batting eighth. You can't find it. He's out every time he comes up in a big spot. Got a little better towards the end of the year, but you got to look at it that way. That's just, it's dollars and cents. You just want the max return on your investment. So, and I can hear some of you guys going, hey man, 177 million, that's in baseball terms. No, that's a lot of money. Okay. That's like a whole roster of some of these smaller market teams. So would I like to see Juan Soto? Yeah. Do I think Juan Soto comes in and he's the piece that puts the Cubs over the top and now all of a sudden they're going to win the World Series? No, because I think they have too many problems in the bullpen. I think they have too many, they have too many outs in the lineup. And if I'm spending $600+ million, there's a lot of other places that money's going to go besides being locked in for, the next 10, 11, 12 years with Juan Soto. And if that guy gets hurt, then what are you going to do? Now, I understand, guys, and I know this. When the Yankees and the Dodgers tell you all you need to know, even the Padres too. The teams that won last year were the teams that had the best players. And that's where the Cubs have got to do a better job. But also Cleveland was in the mix, and they were like, they don't spend any money. So you can do it that way, but you got to have a really strong organization. So, but look, Ken Rosenthal is awesome. He does a great job with The Athletic. He's been covering baseball for a long time. And it was a really good interview listening to him say that, but it was worth doing a show on because I'm going, there's more to it than just going out there and blaming the Cubs for not spending money. And I may be totally off base. It may not have anything to do with, with the fact that the Cubs are log jammed or a new GM could be coming in next year. It could be that they just don't want to spend it. But to me, business wise, I think that if it was a move, if the Cubs were one move away, that they would be more hesitant to make a move. And I just don't feel like that. I feel like there's so many other things that they need to do that adding an absolute superstar player would be great, but you're still not going to win if you don't get outs in the late innings, right? You're still not going to win if you don't get more consistency in the lineup besides Soto. So it's kind of where I see things going right now. But we're going to keep an eye on baseball winter meetings. We'll see kind of where the Cubs move. I don't be surprised if the Cubs don't pull off some trades because I feel like there's some desperation here. There's a sense of urgency. And if they do, we'll try to get on here and talk about them pretty quick and get into exactly what the moves are. But I feel like the Juan Soto deal is going to happen soon. And then you're going to have a lot of other things spiral out after that, including Cody Bellinger. So it could be, a lot of times these deals are done and they're not announced, but the other teams know. And then they'll go out and you'll find out that Cody Bellinger is going to the Yankees before you find out Juan Soto signs with the Mets. So even though the time doesn't really, the Soto deal might be done first, it just hasn't been announced and other teams start moving. So this week could be really fun, could be really interesting. And we'll keep an eye on that. But we've talked about it in other shows. Nico Horner, Seiya Suzuki, all guys that you talk about trading. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs didn't trade a starter. If they feel like they're going to go out and add another starter, that's an area where they have depth. They have some guys like Javier Assad, who maybe some other teams are looking at and going, man, I don't know why they don't value this guy more. Jordan Wicks, a left-hander. They just went out and signed another left-handed starter. Would they be willing to trade Justin Steele, who's had a history of injuries, but when he's healthy, he's fantastic. So we'll find out. Anyway, like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Cubs baseball channel. And we'll do it again soon. I want to say tomorrow, but I just don't know. I mean, something could break right now, and we'll jump in on that. But thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, comment section. Talk to you soon.